What's up to all our sidekicks and henchmen out there in the Geek Nation? You're listening to the Sunday morning CultPop extravaganza comic book review show.
Flam, flam, flam!
I'm your host, Johnny Destructo. I am having technical difficulties, so I'm broadcasting from my iPad. We are here to talk about this week's comics. We have some letters to read. We've got some scintillating conversation that I'm sure you're just biting your nails about. With me this week is Len.
Hey, what's up? Holla at your boy. This is Len, a.k.a. The Bat Triple.
Noel.
Hey, this is not Len. This is Noel. And I also want to kiss you.
Brian.
Hey, it's Brian. And hi.
For those of you listening, we're all trying to figure out where in the panel we are because after 8 months of doing this, it's still confusing to look at each other when they're talking. Yeah, it's still a problem. Still a problem. I know down well. That's it.
Yeah, down's it. Oh, man, I got down.
Like I said, we're going to talk about this week's comics, but we have correspondents.
Correspondents, people who listen to the show.
We got letters?
So we have this from the Home Dad Abroad.
Well, that's long.
It's a long one.
Oh, I read one of the words.
Sweet baby Jesus on a cracker. What? I should have edited this. Okay, all right. So here's the thing. He does not seem to watch the YouTube channel, right? When we do a live stream, and so a little bit of preamble is that after we do the live stream, I download the audio and then I put it all together and I put it up on the podcast stream on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you find your podcast, et cetera, et cetera. But I am super busy, so I haven't had a chance to do that. And so I think we're like 3 weeks behind on the podcast feed. And I just posted one from 3 weeks ago. I believe it was the one with Brian and Noel.
Hi.
Hey.
And so my long national nightmare is finally over. 3 goddamn weeks without an uploaded podcast from you. I thought I had been forgotten. That my lyrically prose contributions accounted for naught in your estimation. The idea that I am just a faceless henchman, not hench person, because, let's face it, only men are stupid yet self-centered enough to blindly offer themselves up as cannon fodder, undeservedly of a kindly nod of the head acknowledgement that you believe my ears to no longer be needed for the completion of your endeavors, is disheartening, to say the least. And when I say I mean all of us who can't engage with appointment YouTubing, who can't handle Brady Bunch faces distracting us from the musical chorus of your ramblings and musings, who are too old to understand all of these newfangled doodads and internet pipes that capture your soul and carry it away over magically invisible wires like some kind of, I don't know, fax machine? So by I mean me.
Wait, what wires is he getting the audio podcast from? That is not these same wires.
Right, exactly. Then suddenly this avalanche of new content slammed into my feeds just as 2.5 pints of warm red essence leached out into the tepid water of the claw-footed cradle of my receding life. All right, I'm going to skip. Finally, a new podcast. No half-ass excuses. You're not going to sit here in silence making rude gestures for the benefit of your visually attuned audience, bastards. Skipping. Let's face it, I'm never going to sell my books. Skipping. Nope. I have been rereading the original run of Hellblazer from the beginning. Saga of the Swamp Thing all the way through Rick Veitch's run, including the unpublished issue 88. What?
Oh.
Where Swampy meets Jesus, drawn by Mike Zulli. Ridiculously beautiful, uncontroversial, and features an origin for the demon Etrigan.
Yeah, I remember talking about that issue. Yeah.
How did he get a hold? Like, I thought it was like completely unavailable. Yeah.
I think if I remember, and I could be wrong, I think it was a book, an issue that not necessarily was unpublished, but like published, but then quickly pulped. And like some copies of it got out there. I think that's the story. I mean, we were talking about it a long time ago.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's the internet age.
Right.
There's that too, yeah.
He also says, if only it had been inked.
See? There you go.
And Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol. Wow, I didn't remember any of that. It's like my own little bedtime book club to annoy my wife with. No questions, no suggestions for book club, since I am clearly more interested in pushing good stories at you guys rather than sharing easily found ones regarding every suggestion I have made for book club. So carry on. So yeah, he keeps making recommendations for our monthly book club that we do here on the show, the last Sunday of every month. And he goes, what about the unpublished text from the 19, like just... Yeah,
it's always
you
like
can find one copy of it on a scroll in a cave.
yeah. My favorite cave paintings by Home Dad Abroad.
Yeah.
It's just like
So,
You really have to see them in person, though. It's not the same if you don't go.
I mean, for book club,
Yeah.
we're gonna travel to.
Yeah,
Egypt.
let's go. Right.
we do have another one from Christopher Goodnight.
Who?
So I just finished issue 3 of We Only Find Them When They're Dead, and I have to say, I don't know if I actually like this series or not. The art isn't my favorite, / makes it hard to tell some characters apart. The constant changing time period confuses me. I'm usually good at keeping track of that sort of thing, but the way they do it is annoying. The overall concept is good, but something about this just isn't working for me. Even the word balloons were bothering me in this issue. So much white space, so little text. By the way, after 9 months at my new job, I was able to pay cash for a 2013 Chevy Sonic. It's a metallic crimson color and needs a name.
Oh.
So I think it's up to us to name his 2013 Chevy Sonic.
Hedgehog is what immediately comes to mind.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The hedgehog, of course.
Can we update after, like, towards the end of the show? Let's all throw out our best names.
Sure, if you want to remember.
Or even next week.
Like let it fester a little bit.
I mean, I'd take a whole week. I'd take a whole week on this.
I mean, I think that the earliest that we can come up with good names is 2021.
Yeah, let's not push it.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for everybody who writes in and everyone who tunes in and hangs out with us. I apologize if you're listening on the audio show, but you'll hear this sometime in 2021.
Well, did anybody else get a chance to read the 3rd issue of We Only Find Them When They're Dead this week?
Not.
I'm hot take. I don't disagree with Christopher St. Saucy right now.
No.
It seems as though I'm liking the series more than him. However, the coloring of the art is incredibly dark. And then when they're shifting time periods, it gets a little weird. Like because we talked about this, I think the last issue, the text balloons or like the font that they're using to show you like time changes is really small in like Old English in either the right-hand side or the lower left-hand side. So if you're not paying explicit attention, because in the art, it doesn't show a difference whatsoever in the character design or the coloring that, something is different. It's a very it's just a very dark book, almost like too moody to even like get across how cool some of the concepts are. So I'm not disagreeing with him. Yeah.
That's an interesting concept to do the time shifts in a different font, but noticeable is certainly a big part of that.
All right. So my computer is finally up and running, so I just have to sign in and do all that stuff. But let's get into the comic books. American Ronin #2 of 5 by Peter Milligan. And is it ACO? ACO?
I thought it was ACO, but I could be wrong.
I like ACO. War is over. Democracy an illusion. Real power now lies not with nation states, but with huge corporations engaged in a silent war for global domination. Their number one weapon, highly skilled, technologically enhanced operatives trained since childhood to pledge their allegiance to the corporate flag. But what happens when one such operative breaks free of his mental chains and decides to bring the whole system down? Can one Ronin make a difference? What did you guys think? Can one Ronin make a difference?
Probably.
Way to yes and that. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. Can one Ronin make a difference? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Could happen.
Probably. Yeah. I've been reading these story things for a while, and I have a feeling.
There's these arcs narrative structures, you know? I see something coming. That's my read on this. And so I read issue 1 yesterday or today. You know, I read them 1 and then number 2, read it one after another. I liked it. I think it's an interesting world. Peter Milligan is somebody that I haven't really read a lot of, but I find his stuff to be offbeat and cool, and it harkens back to that kind of thing. And it's an intriguing concept. It's not like the concept itself really grabs me so much, but it's enough to keep going. You know, I shouldn't say the concept. The story or the tone is not one that I would necessarily feel like really compelled to read, but to spell it out, sorry, I am being distracted by twice the amount of JDs that are normally on the screen. Which is 2. Sorry. So the thing that he does is he's a killer. He's an assassin who largely works by empathizing very, very heavily with his targets or the people en route to his targets, and technologically empathizing with them. And kind of getting in their heads and knowing their weaknesses and that kind of thing. And it's very interesting. And I'm not sure exactly where the story is going, but the character setup has been cool so far.
Yeah. So yeah, the idea of these Ronin, these warriors without, or samurais or warriors without masters, the more that they're widening it, it seems as though there's maybe just a finite number in the world. They are just for the highest bidder, not necessarily affiliated with any country. And they all seem to have some sort of empathy or technologically enhanced empathic or empathy thing. So the main character we're following is, if he can get someone's DNA, he can actually feel all of their feelings in order to get inside their head and go take care of it. The first issue was awesome. Like, the way that it all panned out was that he got his target to kill themselves because he was able to get completely inside their head and know exactly what to say in order to get them to do it, which is the coolest concept in the world. The idea of being able to use any means necessary, including psychological, in order to take out your hit. That's awesome. The second issue wasn't as good, but it still flowed from the stuff I really liked about the first issue. Like, there was something off about this issue. That, like, the art wasn't as tight, the layouts weren't as imaginative, and we didn't learn really. If, like, for a 5-issue mini, I figured it would just kind of be a little deeper, but it was just kind of another, I don't know, 10% change in the story. It was just this nightmare guy versus this empathy
they
guy.
added that. They, a guy who is like him chasing him while he's chasing other people, kind of thing.
But his specific power is being able to get inside of someone's nightmares, whereas the other guy is able to get inside someone's feelings. So I mean, the idea that this could expand to somebody is able to get into desires, somebody is able to get into, I don't know, anxieties, someone that's a really cool idea that they can expand. But this issue was really just a little bit more of the same, which is not a bad thing. It was just kind of all right, cool, fine.
It's got a cool psycho dystopian feel, that kind of future where there's this psychological element to it, I mean, explicitly in the text, but it's a sub genre kind of thing, but it's cool.
See, this is the kind of comic book that this is what makes me go to the trades, because I read the first issue and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed, the world building of it. I enjoyed the idea of talking somebody into killing themselves and everything like that. I enjoyed the attempts that were being made with the story. I like the story. I like the storytelling of the art. I like the artwork and everything. But by the time I get to the second issue and I begin reading it, and the second issue doesn't quite have that same kind of drive as the first one, I agree with you, Noel, I quickly got bored with it. And I was just this is pretty art, but I'm not caring a little bit about all this whole setup thing. So I'm finding myself disengaging with the story as much as I probably shouldn't be, right? Because based on what I had before. And it just made me say, I just wish this was the whole effing story, because I'd power through this because I know there's probably more coming at the end. But no, this is just a chapter, and I just don't care about this chapter. It's not that I don't enjoy it. It's not that it's not pretty. The art is great. I think I mentioned it in our first review. It's got like a vibe of like the very best of J.G. Jones, his artwork. So there's a lot of that in there. I really enjoyed it. It also kind of reminded me a little bit of and I think this is the artist's name. JD will correct me if I'm wrong. Tony Harris, the guy who did Starman.
Starman?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then did, what was the book about the mayor that was like a...
Ex Machina.
Ex Machina, yeah. It's kind of got a little bit of that vibe to it, too. Definitely more J.G. Jones. But, so I was digging it, but J.G. Jones's art, as good as it is another artist who... When I see his art, I just want to wait for the whole book. I don't want to get piecemeal. I just want to get the whole thing. And that's how I felt about this. It's not that it wasn't interesting enough, but it just made me just long for the whole story. It's good. It's an original concept. It's well written. It's well drawn, but there's a little bit of it. This chapter left me cold enough that I just couldn't get through it as a whole.
Miniseries are hard, right? So like we're so conditioned to absorb superhero comics or big two comics in sequential like kind of chunks, and then it's almost just like a choice to make it a trade, so you just don't have as much paper. But usually they read pretty well just sequentially or serialized. Miniseries are hard. Like they have this one specific story they want to tell, but then they've chosen a format that is more serialized. So having those cutoff points in between issues is really rough. Like usually it ends up being a great first issue, hopefully a great second one, but that third one out of 5 or fourth one out of 6 is usually just kind of treading water narratively before the kickoff. Even event comics have this issue where they've got a really specific finite story to tell, but it's serialized. So there's going to be like with even with Dark Knight's Death Metal, this last issue 4 was like, okay, because there were so many other like extra things happening all around it. The actual issue was just really anticlimactic. And I think that's kind of what you're speaking to. It's not this is better in trade or this is not better in trade. It's just you've got this. I don't think that they chose the right moment, or maybe they didn't piece it out right for issues. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But there was definitely for me too. There was a little bit of like, this is great on paper, or like literally on paper, but there's something like the first issue I was genuinely excited for because it was so totally different. This one's just like, yeah, it's cool. It was fine.
I think it was incredibly overwritten. I think this could have benefited from a little bit more show, don't tell. There's so much tell. And there is quite a bit of show. The art, like Len said, is just awesome. It's really well done. It's gorgeous to look at. All of the different things that the artist does with the panel layouts and the, what would you call them? Onomatopoeias, like here with the crack. And then the panel is the word.
Oh, yeah.
And so you're looking through the word to see the action behind the word. I love stuff like that. You've got layouts like this where you've got a close-up of an eyeball, but then you have all of these little fractions of panels floating all over the place. I really like the visual representation of when these characters inject the either feelings or the nightmares of their victims. And I think that's the reason that I like this slightly less than the first issue. I still think this is really good. I think my only problem is there's just a lot of writing, and it's a little extraneous at times, I think.
I think you're right. I think if I remember correctly, the first issue was a little tighter in story, and this one kind of like is going back and forth. It's going to so many different places. Like in the first issue, we're not really introduced to the big bad, this albino guy, until like the last parts of the issue. And here he's so much of, you're going back and forth to him. I just think it's a little bit too much.
Yeah, this one tried to squeeze in a lot more world building.
Mm-hmm.
So the first issue was very much just focused on this Ronin and how he does what he does. This one it opened it up to, in a weird way, kind of like the secret society that's responsible for the Ronins, but then also it was a lot of info dump, but it wasn't done cleanly. It was done like obtusely.
Yeah.
Because all the text boxes are mainly kind of internal monologue thought, not telling you, the reader, what's going on in a third person omniscient kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
So you're constantly switching voices, but then they're telling you information you need to know. So it's oddly a little disjointed. Overwritten is probably the best way to put it, JD.
Yeah.
JD, that page that you had on just the last one, I'm a big fan of that. I like what he does with the sunglasses or just regular glasses throughout. I like that face and shadow, just seeing the different color glasses. And this page in particular I just think it's a very striking image where he's got the two orange lenses and then that device that he's holding. I don't know, is it a scope or a camera or something? Yeah.
Scope.
It's well done.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to finish the series, and I would totally recommend it. But this issue was a little bit of I guess it was a little bit of a downer because the first one I enjoyed so much, but it wasn't bad at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's where I'm at. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. God damn! Look at this art.
Yeah. Those circular panels, the like repeating circular panel at the top of the page, kind of dominating the page. It's very cool.
I want to give AWA more of a shot. This is the only series I've read from theirs so far. They've got a couple of really cool writers doing things, like Benjamin Percy's doing a zombie book. I think we had tried, what was it, Devil's Highway? That was pretty decent first issue. Like, I'm hoping that they find that kind of niche in the market that was Vertigo once, because all of their stuff kind of seems to be shooting for that.
Mm-hmm. It just hit on me who that art is reminiscent of. It's J.G. Jones was a touch of Jim Steranko from the early days of the 60s.
Like the Shield stuff.
His Shield stuff.
Yeah.
That's all good.
Yeah.
All good shit.
Samuel David says, I agree, Noel. It is really hard to do with a mini, but you know what? Stealth did it in an awesome way. It was a mini, but every single issue was interesting and left you with an awesome cliffhanger.
That's a good point. Did that
Stealth
finish?
was very good.
Yeah, we didn't read the 6th issue.
We didn't. Yeah, we read every issue and reviewed every issue except for the last one.
No, get it in trade, ladies and gentlemen. Get it in trade. Because Stealth is good. Stealth is actually a very good book.
Yeah.
Samuel David also said that Hotel and Archangel 8 from AWA are pretty good. Samuel David, did you read Resistance? Is that the J. Michael Straczynski book from AWA? Something like that. Let us know.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next book, Getting It Together, number 2 of 4. It's a 4-issue miniseries from Image Comics, with art by Sina Grace and Omar Spahi, with art by Jenny Fine and MX Struble. Is it really possible to be friends with your ex? Sam and Lauren try to work things out while Jack dives deeper into dating apps, which brings more surprises from his past than he expected. Meanwhile, Lauren's band, Nip Slip, gets an offer they simply can't refuse. This issue contains 29 pages of joyous melodrama and a bonus Jack side quest. I don't know if we all, but I think most of us enjoyed the first issue. It was a nice break from the big superheroics and the assassins and the mercenaries and all the other stuff that we usually see every week. And it's a nice little slice of life relationship book. So it's nice to kind of turn off all the big crazy fight scenes and everything and just hang out with people who are having friendship troubles and relationship troubles and just trying to figure out how to coexist and find love. So I think it's a pretty solid book. And I read that book, and then I read another book this week, which made me realize something about this book, is that I wish it had just a touch more humor. I think the only problem that I have with connecting with these characters is there's so much melodrama, there's so much sniping back and forth at each other and relationship stuff, which is great, but I didn't really feel any breaks in the tension. It just seemed to be like this person's fighting with this person and this person's trying to fuck this person. I could have used a little bit of, I think, just levity, a little bit of humor. I don't know if maybe there's a character in there who would be best for that, but yeah, I think it's good. It's solid, and it's really good if you like romance and relationship books. But I just think it's missing just a little bit of something to keep me more engaged as a reader. What did you guys think? No.
I'm not going to disagree with you. I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying this book much like I would enjoy stumbling on a movie outside of my specific demographic on a rainy day. Right? Like you get sucked into things that you normally wouldn't seek out. And part of that too is the frustration with the characters.
Yeah.
So I've lived longer than some of these people in the book. And I immediately recognize just incredibly damaging behavior that in other mediums I just wouldn't tolerate. I would just turn the channel. But this is done in an honest and kind of not showy way, so it's a little bit more engaging and it's a little bit more earnest, which gives it a lot more leeway for me. To the question in the solicits, like, yes, you could be friends with an ex, but not immediately when you're still harboring intense emotions for them, sometimes hate, sometimes like. So it's these things of like the writers are definitely hitting on very palpable emotions. And also too, like most of the times that I've read or watched plots like this, it has not been with queer characters, which I really, really like. Like it's a perspective that I don't have. So like normalizing in popular fiction all of these relationships and how they function and showing just how similar they all are in a lot of ways and just as much as they're very different is an enjoyable ride to me, even though sometimes I really hate these characters.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the fun of it, isn't it? Like, so
Yeah.
When you're watching a show like this on HBO or wherever, I think there's a lot of TV shows that deal with these sorts of things. Half of the fun is kind of being angry at all the characters for making bad decisions, because that is the essence of drama. Like, they made a bad decision and now they have to suffer the consequences of that bad decision, which is the whole point of it. So yeah, no, I agree though.
Or when you're like, don't go in there in a horror movie, but on an emotional level,
exactly.
in a relationship.
But don't go into that friendship relationship. You just left your romantic relationship. Don't go in that relationship.
Right.
Yeah. Like, dude, you're so raw. Don't do that. Like, why would you bring that up?
Now, I didn't. Oh, sorry, Len. Do you?
No. Go.
I didn't read the first issue, and I didn't know what I was getting into at all. And the things that you said, JD, about the kind of books that we normally read, I thought that this was that, and I was like, "What is happening with this comic?" Nothing is happening. When
will one turn into a monster?
Right, exactly. When are they going to get it together in a sci-fi way?
Who's secretly bulletproof? Yeah. What's happening right now?
Which one of these people was secretly bitten by a zombie and isn't telling the rest of the group?
Right. I mean, nothing like that happened in the whole comic.
I mean, that we know of.
That's true. It's a secret. It's a heavily kept secret.
Issue 4's got a really big cliffhanger right here.
All right, I'll stick with it through issue 4 for that. And I mean, as a consequence, I when you gave that analogy, Noel, of like a movie that's out of your demographic on a rainy day, that has totally happened to me, and it's an enjoyable experience. That didn't happen to me for this. I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't engaged with the characters. I also didn't read the first issue, so I'm like, none of this has any impact for me. It's just people in these complicated relationships that are, first they don't like each other, but they do like each other, all that stuff. Also, some of the art bothered me. I personally am not into like normal pose, wildly expressive pose when I am expressing something emotional. I don't like that. It's just a style choice that I'm not into. It kind of like an anime. They do the same kind of thing, and it's for people. Hey, that was cool. What you have on the screen now. where we're seeing the clouds in behind their heads as these two characters who are meeting, who are angry with each other, and well, one of them is very angry, and there are skulls and lightning in behind, and the other one has a rain cloud. That's a cool choice.
Yeah.
The art's a little rough. Ultimately, yeah, I think maybe had I known what I was getting into, I would have felt differently about it. But it just wasn't my thing. It wasn't for me.
Is she punching him in the neck?
Yeah.
It's like actually I really love that scene that you're showing there. She smacks him, but you never see, like, in reality, if you try and smack someone or someone tries to smack you, it's not like well choreographed or rehearsed where it just perfectly gets the side of your cheek with the cup of a hand to make a thing. It's usually really sloppy, or they get to the neck, or they smack your ear, or
like in Fight Club.
Yeah.
And this drawing is pretty much that. Like he curls away, she gets his neck. Like it's a whole like really. Yeah. It's not pretty, which is pretty much this whole book. It's just not pretty.
Well, I think that's the other thing, like to B's point, that makes this a bit of a rough sell for me, is that it is not pretty. The art is very sketchy, and while it's a choice, and there are some scenes where it works, there are other. For the most part, it doesn't work. It's just a little bit too sketchy, and I don't think if it services the story well, at least not to my eyes. It's not bad though, and overall I got into it, but the art because of its sketchiness kind of like lives in that between space between something that's serious and slightly comedic. And then when this is all melodrama, it's like, well, then the art's not really selling it well to me. You know what I mean? Now, I don't mind it being all melodrama. I don't mind it being, maybe, I don't think it takes itself too serious, but it takes itself a little, serious. And I don't mind that so much, because when we were this age, because none of us are this age anymore. Brian's the closest to it. But
he's the baby.
He's the baby. Don't let that voice fool you, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. He's the diaper boy of the group. But when we were this age, these things had this much weight to us. You know what I mean? They did have that much weight to your whole day, to your whole mood, and how you interacted with everybody in your circle based on just this one little piece of minutia that happened. You know what I mean? That scene right there, the scene of the hookup that happens, and saying it's a hookup, it's actually doing it a disservice, because it actually is very sweet and romantic thing that happens between these two men in the book. That scene is actually well done, and a bit of humor that is brought onto the page. Yeah. So it's the one little part where I was like, this is funny. Why isn't there more of this? But the level of melodrama didn't bother me so much. It's just that I just don't think it's sold well by the art, by the artistic choices. Also, this story easily could have ended on like 4 different pages. I thought was the end. Perfect end, either by the way the art was laid out or by the story beat that happened. But no, it doesn't. Where does it end? It literally ends in the middle of a conversation, and then it ends off the right hand corner. It's like, oh yeah, we're done now. See you next week. I'm like, wait a minute.
It took me 2 issues. It took me 2 issues to realize that this is very explicitly kind of structured like a sitcom.
Right.
So there's A plots and B plots, and they do kind of hang off with, like, they don't have endings so much as punchlines, and then they fade to black. Like this is the kind of melodrama it's not trying to convince you that it's hyper important and end of the world so much as everyone inside the story thinks it's hyper important and end of the world. So there's a bit of a disconnect with how dramatic or how important it is. You know, like even though the characters are struggling hard, they're still kind of funny because the book's not trying to convince you that their struggle is super real. They're just everyone just earnestly believes that it is, which I appreciate. Like if it's like the difference between watching a really good rom-com and watching The Bachelor. The Bachelor is manufactured bullshit that's trying to convince you that it's really important. Whereas a rom-com is just, no, all these characters are safe inside the story and they think it's important, but I just want you to enjoy it. Like there's a completely different type of way that it hits me, and this was more successful to me.
I was just trying to think, does anybody in here that already knows each other have a conversation that is just not problematic in some way? And I think maybe they do. Well, Annie kissing the guy in the blue shirt, that was, I guess, a problem because somebody else had a problem with it, but that wasn't necessarily wrong. But the two friends, the blue shirt guy and the brother of the band woman,
the blue shirt guy.
Yeah.
They're names. It's fine.
Yeah, he's
I don't remember.
For the people at home.
Ashton's
he's the one in the blue
Ashton is the bass player.
Yeah.
No, the other guy.
He's talking about the brother.
The guy who broke up with the.
Talk about Sam.
Sam. Yeah, I don't know. I was just trying to think of like, is there anyone here who is just? It's like a fun conversation.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, the Tinder date. He was my favorite character in this issue.
Yes, sorry, with people that they already know. But yes, you're right. That's why I modified it that way, because the Tinder date was great, and maybe they'll be good together. You know, maybe.
I mean, I think Sam will fuck it up, and that's what makes me excited about this book. Like, I think Sam's going to screw it up because he is just looking for hookups. Whereas this is potential for a really good relationship, but he'll mess it up because his role models, his sister and best friend, don't know how to have functional relationships. That's the fun of these like romance comics. You just kind of get into the drama of it at a nice distance.
What do you think of Laura?
Which one is she? Is
Laura
she the main?
I don't know why I think this. It's an ensemble book. There is no main character, but Laura seems to be the main character to me.
No, she seems to be the main character.
She's the lead. Right.
Yeah.
She's the center of the diagram. Right. I don't know if she's the protagonist, but she is how everyone's connected.
She is not super likable. Like every decision she makes in this book is kind of like, ugh. Like she's the one who did she make out or have sex with Ashton?
Had sex with is definitely.
She had sex with Ashton. Cheated on her boyfriend. The boyfriend and her broke up, and now she's mad at like literally every other person. And I realize she's going through something, right? Like she's obviously having some sort of God, what's the word I want to use? But yeah, she's just going through something emotionally, and she's trying to figure things out. But man, every decision and every interaction she has is just kind of cringy. And so I'm hoping there will be a character arc for her.
She didn't cheat, technically.
Yeah,
they were
broken up, I think.
No, they opened up their relationship consciously because it was his idea.
Oh, I thought it was.
And
they
then
were
she
talking about opening up their relationship, and she just went ahead and did it.
They opened it up, but he didn't assume that one, she was going to act on it so quickly, and two, it would be someone he knows. And that's the problem that kind of precipitated all of this. Like, oh, that hurt my feelings. Oh, I can't escape it because this person's in your band and a part of our circle.
So that's why you don't open up your relationship. Well, dummy.
It's the stupid life choices of young people. Like we all have to make mistakes. In hindsight, we could see this and be like, oh, she's going through something. Oh, that was a dumb idea. But I'm just kind of sucked into it. And I don't know if I like her or not yet.
Did you read the backup story? Did you guys read the backup story?
No, I didn't.
I did. I don't remember.
I did not either. I read the very end of it, and I think I got the gist. It looked fun. Looked cute. But I didn't read it.
Everything about this is cute.
Did you guys go to Nipslip Sucks with xxx.bandcamp.com to hear Lauren's demos for Nipslip songs?
No.
I have only gone to a URL from a comic book once in my life.
What was that URL?
That was at the end of certain issues of Murder Falcon. It was a URL to metal playlists. and original metal music to go with the book. I was like,
all right.
oh, okay, cool.
Oh, that's cool. Now, but you did go to the QR code, right? Actually, just a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, for We Live. And then I turned it off
Yeah.
immediately. I was like, oh, yeah, that's cool. Like,
Right on.
Are you talking about the Bandcamp
yeah.
for Nip Slip?
Yeah.
Wasn't great.
All right.
I was really excited for it. I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
But like, I put it on and I was like,
I guess it's always hard to do it, right? Like, we're making a comic. It would be cool if we had some music to go along with it, but we're not necessarily in that genre at all.
Mhm.
And even acquiring, so, like manufactured music from this band in the story, it's always a tough
it's a neat
hill to
idea. Though.
climb.
I always like when they attempt.
Oh,
to do
yeah,
that.
definitely.
Let's move on to Kick-Ass versus Hit Girl, number 1 of 5 from Image Comics by Steve Niles and Marcelo Fruzen, with a cover by John Romita Jr. New story arc. It's Kick-Ass versus Hit Girl. Oh my God, that's the title of the book. Old allies become enemies when Mindy screeches into Albuquerque to kill the imposter who's been running gangs in New Mexico. And as Hit Girl sets out to avenge Dave and stop Kick-Ass's criminal operations for good, Patience fights to survive as the target of the best assassin in the biz and questions whether she could ever kill a child to save her own life. So I have not read Kick-Ass or Hit Girl in a very long time. I do remember that there was a new Kick-Ass, and she was a ex-military woman who came home and found out that like her husband had left her and the military did not give her any benefits or anything, so she was really struggling, and she winds up ordering the Kick-Ass costume online because it's very popular due to Dave Lazuski or whatever his name was, and so she orders it and then starts stealing money from kicking ass, stealing money from criminals. That's where I left off. I think it was the first issue of that series, and I never read any further. Not on purpose. I just lost track of it, and here we are.
Yeah.
I'm trying to decide if I like it, and I'm also trying to decide what's happening in the book. So a little catch up would have been nice.
What happened to Dave Lazuski?
Exactly. I don't know.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, the description that you read, some of that was news to me. Having read can't somebody contemplates if they can get something save it from killing a child? I don't remember that coming up. There was Hit Girl's motivations. There was nothing about that, right? Like, can she save somebody? Was that anywhere in this book?
Nope.
I've never read anything from this world, this universe, and I had absolutely no idea what was going on. I knew that Kick-Ass existed, and this was not the one that was originally Kick-Ass. Just from there was a movie, I didn't see it, but I saw the trailers or whatever.
It was good.
Was it?
Yeah, it was. It was fun.
The first one was very good.
All right.
Better than the book.
Yes,
sweet.
it was. Yeah.
Sweet.
And vastly different than this. That was the thing. That was my question. Like, do you guys like the direction that this is taken? Because it was about some diddle derp putting on a costume and deciding to fight crime because he was upset, and then constantly getting his ass kicked.
I have
and then
thoughts.
he meets
Yeah.
Hit Girl is an actual assassin who was trained by a comic book loving dad to be his kind of Robin. And she is just the most murdering little girl in all the land. So she's kind of what I thought was fun about the series was Hit Girl. And she's had a couple of miniseries since then, which I haven't really read.
Is she a big part of it, all along?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
From Jump. Yeah.
Okay.
I hated this. I hated reading it. How about that?
Morning.
The charm of the original was the out of touch kind of it, and the the silliness of it. This militarizes it. I mean, the character is potentially very compelling. However, they also don't really have need to emulate a kid who was made famous for getting his ass kicked and then happened to take down one or two bad guys. There's no reason for it to be Kick-Ass. It's just possibly a good story on its own. So it's kind of weird. Like the connection itself didn't really do anything for me. But then this issue, it was awful. There's no lead in, there's no runway, there's no setup. It's just, oh, I'm sorry, were you not familiar with the 40 issues before? This is a new title, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, this is issue 43 with no backstory, but we're calling it number 1.
Right.
Structurally, this was, I was telling the guys off mic before, this is the equivalent of the free preview you got in Wizard that had no beginning, no ending, hardly any context.
Yeah.
And it was just like, okay, cool. Like this was, I didn't like this at all.
During that same conversation beforehand, I mentioned like the best part was that I didn't realize that was the last page, and it was. And I was like, oh, I'm still reading this. Oh, it's done. Like that there was no real sense that it was the ending of this comic, but I was, I was like, great. I mean, now in fairness to the book, I was trying to cram all the books in like last night and this morning to be able to discuss them with these guys on the show. But I mean, this definitely is not my my alley anyway. And I was like, ugh.
Homosexual in the chat actually did throw up. He threw up. No, but he threw up on screen. The new Kick-Ass is great, but a whole lot has happened, so it would be hard to jump in now. But pretty sure it will be heroes fighting due to misunderstanding and then teaming up against the real bad guys. Yay! Yeah. I know. We know that's what's going to happen. But even the big two, when they start an event, because this is billed as an event. These are two IPs fighting each other as the title. They even throw some text boxes up there to just tell you which each character is doing or where they came from, because you will have new readers. Right. This does nothing to set groundwork whatsoever. Like it just throws you in like it's a sequel.
Yeah.
Like, what?
And the part of the reason I didn't realize that it was the end is that's when Hit Girl shows up. And even that is not something that doesn't happen a lot, where like it'll be these two main characters and one of the main characters won't show up till the end of the first issue. But it just didn't. It was like 2 pages. It didn't do anything to grab me.
Because you don't know where Hit Girl is coming from.
I have no idea what her deal is at all. And and it didn't. But that has been done with characters that I've never heard about before. You know what I mean? They show up at the end, but
they can show up at the end. But at least when they show up, there is either they have such recognition with you that you kind of know where they're coming from. Like Batman can show up at the end where he's just coming from a bat rope or he's coming from a bat rope. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And if you're in this world, okay, maybe Hit Girl, and maybe and let's face it, as though the movies were named Kick-Ass, and I think there was a Kick-Ass 2, and the books started as Kick-Ass, Hit Girl has taken over to be the more popular IP of this world. So for people that know that are into this world, they know Hit Girl. But that means when you're introduced to Hit Girl, it should be a moment, and she kind of just shows up. It's not really with any type of grand entrance. Okay, maybe it might be grand. Let me strike that. It might be grand because when she does show up, she does literally chop somebody's head off when we see her. But that would stand out if we hadn't already seen somebody else's head get chopped off a couple of pages before by the other protagonist in this book. So
that's the connection. They both do that.
Right. So, but Hit Girl's not bringing anything new to the table now. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you what, if it had ended on that page, I think it would have been better, right? That's a good, shocking. It's almost like you get too much of Hit Girl for there to be nothing about her. Mm-hmm. If it had been like these guys, they're riding up trying to attack these people, and Hit Girl comes up and she chops one of their heads off, splash page, and it's done. You're like, what's going on here? Who's this?
I think it was Hawkman that we read a couple months ago, where it ended with a cliffhanger with the character reveal, and I was like, who the hell is this character?
Right. So,
not letting the reader in, like if you're coming in blind, not letting the reader in as to what impact this
Right.
last page reveal is, because they introduced Hit Girl and that's cool and we should know who she is, but then she's riding into Albuquerque.
Right.
Awesome.
That's kind of a
unless you read the solicit, you don't know that the story is taking place in Albuquerque.
Right.
Right.
There's nothing that says she's
Right.
so what the hell does it mean unless I have
Right.
this is like saying, oh, you'll really enjoy this book if you read the 4,000 pages of appendices and know what's happening. Like, what?
Right.
Just-
That's a really good point. Did they at any time say that Kick-Ass was in Albuquerque before that?
No.
unless you read the other stuff. No.
Oh, right.
No. Well,
She's on her way, and she's like, "Oh, welcome to Albuquerque." All right, why? Okay.
Right. I guess. What's she doing there?
Well, that's the problem when your comic book literally starts in the second page of the second act of the script, so you don't really know what happened beforehand. The other thing that is a bad part about this book is the art by Marcelo Fruzen it's not bad art. And I know I'd seen his art before and I had to look up his name. He worked with Brian Azzarello on Loveless. That's where I was introduced to him. And while his art is not necessarily bad, it is almost like $3 Eduardo Riso. So it doesn't have that same energy that I find in Eduardo Riso's art, where I might not necessarily know what's going on, or enjoy what's going on, but I'm having fun looking at it. This one, it's not bad, but it's still just it's stilted enough that it's just not engaging me either in the artwork.
Yeah, there's also a little bit of what is his name? Leandro Fernandez.
Yep.
And a little bit down here on this last panel, you can see a little bit of Francis Yu.
Mm-hmm.
Leandro, especially in the screaming face on the bottom. Leandro Fernandez is the guy that's doing Old Guard right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, his stuff is much more like Eduardo Riso, where the facial features and the acting are, just south of realistic. Mm-hmm. So they're very accentuated. This is definitely this is trying to be more realistic, but just kind of pulling away almost in like an uncanny valley. Leandro Fernandez, if he swerves into it at least, so you stay in the story as opposed to, oh, that was a good panel and this looks weird next to it. Pick a lane, my friend. Yeah.
This wasn't for me.
Now, JD, we might not have cared for this comic, but are there any websites where people can donate money to this show?
Oh, yeah, what a segue. You can go to patreon.com/JohnnyDestructo. We're actually working on, at Brandon's behest, we are working on patreon.com/CultPopGo or CultPop, where we're going to be bringing you a different type of show if we ever can get around to putting it together. But for right now, patreon.com/JohnnyDestructo goes to help the show out. So if you want to help out that way, that would be great. If you don't have any money, just hang out with us. Come hang out with us. We do it for free. We're here to hang out with our friends and to chat with you guys. So come hang out, comment, like, subscribe, do all the stuff that you're supposed to do to help us out. That would be great.
Yes, enact physical violence on all the like buttons on all of the things, and comment ferociously as much as humanly possible.
Like a tiger, but human.
Yes.
Like a tiger.
Let's move on.
The fuck was
that a tiger? Yeah, I got that.
It's a little baby tiger.
Tigers are babies too sometimes.
Miskatonic #1 from Aftershock Comics. Let's see. Written by Mark Sable, art by Giorgio Pontrella. Miskatonic Valley holds many mysteries. Cultists worshipping old gods, a doctor dead set on resurrecting the recently deceased, a house overrun by rats in the walls, but none more recent than a series of bombings targeting the valley's elite. These horrors...
But none more recent? Is that what it said?
That's what I said. That's what I was thinking too. But none more recent. I expect it to be like none more horrific than this thing.
This is the most recent of all.
Yeah.
Boy, if you thought those other ones were recent.
They were, but now this one is.
These horrors reach a breaking
But that
point.
was yesterday. Today, ladies and gentlemen.
It's
These
only
are-
recent until.
These horrors reach a breaking point when the brilliant, hard-nosed investigator Miranda Keller is sent to stop the bombings. To J. Edgar Hoover, there can be no other explanation than those responsible for similar actions during the Red Scare of the 1920s. But when Miranda digs too deep, she uncovers an unimaginable occult conspiracy, one that may cost Miranda her job and her sanity.
Oh.
This was fine.
Speaking
The cover-
of
the
books,
cover
there
had
was
me.
stuff
I was
going
like-
on.
The cover looks great. I'm excited about this. This looks really cool. The art looks great. And I don't think I like... what's his nuts? I don't like these types of stories.
The
Lovecraft,
Cthulhu
H.P.
stuff?
Lovecraft.
Yeah.
I do not care every single time, except for Lovecraft Country, which I don't know if that counts. But like, yeah, anything having
Barely.
to do with Miskatonic and Lovecraft and all that stuff, I generally don't like. I enjoyed the Color Out of Space movie, but yeah, this was fine. I was a little bored. The art was so. Yeah, nothing really grabbed me about this. The characters weren't particularly interesting. Like, oh, she's a lady FBI agent or CIA, no, FBI.
FBI.
And he does not like that. And it's like, all right, cool. What did you guys think? Hopefully you had a better experience than I did. Brian.
I didn't. It was hard to measure, but again, speaking of, there is a lot going on before you read this book that it would be helpful to know. I was discussing it with a friend of mine last night, and I was like, yeah, I read this, didn't really grab me. And she's like, oh, like Cthulhu stuff? And I was like, I don't know, maybe. There's lizard guys. And then as I said things, I was like, well, they meant it's Miskatonic. And she's like, oh, maybe. And it's like, and at the end they say Dagon. And she's like, oh, that's definitely Cthulhu stuff. So if you are already steeped in that knowledge, then, then maybe that's fine. And you're just like, ooh, the hints are coming out. And there are a lot of people that are really steeped in that knowledge. I've never been interested in that kind of thing. There's a few bits of his work that have sounded interesting to me, but I've never gotten into it. The art is... The art, I don't dislike the art. It doesn't really move, and this might not be the best story to go along with that art. Although it has that kind of old feel, and I can dig that sometimes. It reminds me of Nancy Drew, to be honest, which I never read, but it just kind of reminds me of it. Also, any story where... What's that? Where's that butt?
Sorry.
There you go. Look at that monster's butt.
That the monster reveal is a very interesting angle and lighting. So I'm sorry, that's all I wanted
It's
to
like
say.
a supermodel kind of.
Yeah, it's just like look over your shoulder, JCPenney catalog kind of
Right.
thing.
Oh, I didn't
It's
see
very
that.
weird.
Oh,
Yeah.
and mouth agape in surprise.
You're like, hey.
Yeah,
it's
it
very
almost-
weird.
Is
It
it even a
almost looks
monster?
like,
Maybe that's a
Claudia
reason.
Schiffer was the model for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but any
It's
story
definitely a
where
fight.
J. Edgar Hoover is like a good character, I'm not sure that this is that story. But when
There's nothing good about this man.
right,
He's a shithead. Yeah.
and I was a little worried that he was being portrayed as like the upstanding head of the FBI.
Wait, what?
And-
I thought he
and-
was kind of an asshole.
He's a huge asshole.
Yeah, he's an asshole.
I mean, he was in like the sort of you're a woman and I'm going to be mean to you of that era. And I was worried that they were still kind of playing him as like, but he leads the FBI. And I'm not standing by that. I was just like, I don't like that if that's where they're going.
Oh, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
all
Oh,
right, yeah.
great work. I'll try to transfer you to the secretarial pool. What?
Oh, yeah.
He's
Oh,
a
yeah.
villain.
Like all that, of course. Like there's all that like misogyny of that
Well,
era.
I mean, and also
Yeah.
the whole basis, the reason she goes down there is
Mhm.
because he thinks this might be connected to something that they solved a decade earlier, and he's like, "You're going to go, and you're going to make sure nobody hears about any of this." So he's the whole thing is like he's already starting to just try and cover up a thing that they're investigating.
Yeah, Brian, what I
Right,
think you're
right.
fearing that they were going to do with J. Edgar Hoover, they're actually doing with the agent she meets up with.
And that's
he
fine. Yeah.
he is the classic misogynist that is probably going to be proven wrong and or see the light by the end of the story that women are just as good as men.
Right. Or he
But
doesn't
then-
hate the
But then as soon as it fades to black, he'll go ask her to like make him a pie. But it doesn't matter. Like this, I didn't hate this. It read like the pilot episode of a procedural that had a pretty decent supernatural twist. I don't know if I want to keep reading it or maybe wait until it's in a more digestible chunk. But it was just fine. Like I think I'd give it like a B-. There's literally nothing wrong with it. It just didn't check boxes that I typically enjoy.
Oh, that cover though, I forgot to mention. I agree. It's great. I really had a different impression of it. Like you mentioned, JT. I wanted to credit where credit is due.
The cover?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, if only this book read as well as the whatever JD read that you know, the write-up of the book, because that sounded interesting. This book was boring. I think the cover, you're right, it's great and it sells it. And if I had only seen the cover, maybe I'm buying the book. But the book itself, while the art is not bad, it is very stilted. It's just very just like paint inside the numbers. The storytelling jumps from all over the place. I mean, like the transitions from scene to scene sometimes makes absolutely no sense. Yeah. And I had to turn to the page before, like, really? Did we really just jump from, you know, we were here at the side of the road and now all of a sudden the car's not working? We didn't I'm like, what happened? Did I miss a page here? What's going on? Yeah. It absolutely made no sense to me. And it figures to be an interesting, like you said, procedural or some type of detective story that I'm all in for if it is well done. But this is just not well done at all. It just doesn't, it's just, the pacing is just bad. The artwork doesn't sell it. And I just didn't enjoy it at all. But I will say, a saving grace for this comic book for me was that let me see if I can bring this up real quick for you,
booty.
It's not booty.
I mean, it's fish booty. So, like you scanning through the art, like I read this last night. This was pretty much the last thing I read this week. The art felt like really, really early rough Phil Noto.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like real static. Like the way they draw a face is nice, but everything is very static and sterile in a way that early Phil Noto did. Like he has gotten, like his pinups have always been beautiful, but I remember reading some like early interiors that just looked like poses in between panels. Like it's not like that anymore, but this felt like that, where it was transitions were very rough and or not. They just weren't fluid. They weren't very fluid at all. It was a very jerky experience.
There's kind of a watercolory feel to the coloring.
That also reminds me of Noto too, though.
Yeah. And can sometimes feel like a static kind of experience.
What this book reminded me of was back in the early days of the turn of the century, 2001, 2004. If people remember, there was a small little comic book company that thought it could, called CrossGen.
Oh yeah.
They put out a comic book called Ruse, R-U-S-E.
Oh yeah.
By Mark Waid and Butch Geist, which was a Victorian age, almost like detective story, like this pseudo Sherlock Holmesian type character. And it was so fucking good. It was one of the best comic books that I had ever read. I put a image of the cover up there, JD, if you want to share it for people to see. It was tight. It was well drawn because this was Butch Geist just having fun. You felt like you were in the Victorian age. It was like this pseudo Sherlock Holmesian type of dude who was a little misogynistic, who has to take on this woman partner who proves herself to be every bit his equal, and he begrudgingly takes her on more or less as his, Dr. Watson. It was a tight 26 issues of this book. It was great. Go look it up. Go buy it. If you may have to dig into the crates and a convention to find it, but it is well worth the buy.
Nice.
Yeah,
Is it in print,
I know.
Katie?
What?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were looking if it was in print.
That's what I was trying to do. Yeah.
I don't know if it is.
Stop talking. Has anyone read any cross-gen before?
I think I did,
had.
but I don't remember.
I read cross-gen. I read some cross-gen, but honestly, the only one that really did it for me was Ruse. So I fell in love with that. I remember in the early days of cross-gen, George Perez signed a contract with them, and he was doing a book with them that he signed with them, but then he was doing covers because the book he was scheduled to do, he didn't do because they had an out that if JLA Avengers happened, he would be allowed to go do that. So then he went, I think, for like a year and did JLA Avengers, and then came back and did his book. But by the time he did his book, cross-gen was kind of like on its way to like failing as an experiment. And
I looked it up really quick. Yeah, because I remember reading about cross-gen relatively recently in the last like 2 or 3 years. And I was like, they were acquired by somebody. Who acquired them? And it was Disney in 2004. Disney bought
really?
it. Yeah. So I wonder where these characters exist. Can Marvel just do a Ruse book now if they wanted to?
So for anyone looking, there's a Ruse omnibus from back in 2009. And it's got all 17 issues of the Eisner and Harvey nominated series.
Oh, so it's 17 issues. So that must be the ones that were by Wade, because Wade left, and I think Scott Beatty took up after him.
It looks really cool, the cover.
Yeah, Scott Beatty.
Yeah.
There's another one that has 18 to 26.
Yeah, so that's the finishing. Yeah, that's Beatty's book. Yeah, B. I'm telling you right now, if you put that, I guarantee you would love that book.
You've gotten me interested in it, the praise that you've heaped on it, and like that art hits a real sweet spot for me too. Yeah, and the story looks good.
What's the my favorite retailer? What's the price point on that for 17 issues?
We're doing this in real time, folks. I'm telling you, I know.
Let's
I know
move on
for a
to
fact.
punchline number 1, written by Sam Jones, with art by Mirka and Dolfo. This isn't the Shopping Network. As she faces the consequences for her role in the Joker War, the story of how Alexis Kay became Punchline will take Leslie Tompkins, Harper Row, and Cullen Row on a harrowing journey that reveals a fringe teenager's radicalization to the ideology of a madman. It's a terrifying tale so big, it demanded an oversized special issue. So, this is the first one-shot dedicated to Punchline, who is basically the replacement for Harley Quinn, for lack of a better description. And we got a story about her in an anniversary issue, I think, recently, and we all went, oh, okay, cool. She murdered her principal or something, the dean of the college. All right.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Like
cool.
initiation. Yeah.
This one I thought was much, much better, way more engaging, way more interesting. Gave us a little bit more to hang on to in terms of the character and why we should care about her. And I think it's a lot of steps up from previously. So, what did you guys think, Brian?
I wasn't really feeling it. It wasn't bad. It was. I agree with you. Like it gave us a little bit more about her, and I like that she is. Harley Quinn was redeemable and is being redeemed, or maybe is redeemed, right? Like she was. This person is just. She's a terrible murderer who kills people, you know. And I think that practically speaking, that works better, right? Like that way she just stays in the character space that she's at, and Harley Quinn can change and be something different, and that's how I view this character, is she allows for no backsliding, to Harley Quinn. I thought the podcast bits where she's doing, you like hear the podcast that she tells of the Joker, it was text heavy and small. It was like really small on the tablet that I was reading it on. And so kind of difficult to read, I find it, I was like, in Gotham, they have a tank of Joker fish and they sell stuffed Joker fish.
Yeah.
Right?
All right, I could see
awesome.
that happening. Yeah, I could see that. So, yeah. Also, since when is Leslie Tompkins, like, mostly young? And has that been a while now?
She's got gray hairish.
She's she's certainly not all gray up in a bun. She's sitting here in like an alluring way. Not that people with gray hairs up in buns can't sit in alluring ways.
I feel like we haven't seen much of Leslie Tompkins or even Harper Row since Scott Snyder's run on Batman. Like they've been kind of characters that are a little shifted to the side.
Oh, I like that she was in it. You guys think she is being set up as like the foil to Punchline?
I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, I'd like more Harper Row. I like her look. I don't know much about her, but I'd like to see more of her. Yeah.
Overall, and her brother, going down this path that is not so great. We'll see where that goes. That's an interesting story.
Yeah, that's actually what I liked about this issue. Like, had I not read this, I wouldn't have felt I missed anything. But having read it, I liked what they were trying to do a lot. Like, first of all, this is far and away better than where we'd seen her origin before. But I liked the idea of through 12 to, or it was like 52 episodes of a podcast. It was a true crime podcast that people just like eat up and binge. Through 52 episodes of a podcast, she has been able to manipulate, radicalize, and sow or seed doubt in large swaths of the population in Gotham, which is something we see happen literally every day in the real world. And I thought that was interesting. Like I mean, it's not a revolutionary idea. It was done pretty well. It was an interesting idea. I don't know what they're going to do with it, other than just continue to seed doubt. And this is going to be a whole legal drama, and she's going to get off, and then she's going to have all of these like armies of incels or radicalized idiots that follow her, which is a good idea. I think this is a cool jumping off point. It was like a B-ish story, but with a really, really good hook that hopefully gets utilized in fun ways.
Yeah, it's a good start.
Yeah.
It's a good start. I agree with you. The whole bit using the podcast is very cool, bringing a touch of real world into this to make the character of Punchline stand out. I agree that her whole raison d'etre is to allow Harley Quinn to be fully herself, redeemable. So much so that they even give Punchline the famous Harley Quinn pose right there on the page.
Oh.
That was cool. I couldn't remember exactly what that was from, but yeah, Len, you're right. That's Harley Quinn, and that's really cool.
Right. So I agree with that. The reason why this book, as original as I saw some of the bits were in it, the reason why I couldn't stay with it, one, I didn't recognize Leslie Tompkins, but I don't have any problem with anybody, showing a sassier, sexier Leslie Tompkins. Go ahead with your bad self, And as somebody who makes gray looks good, I know that women can make gray look good, so I ain't mad at her at all.
Silver Fox.
But the reason why this left me cold is the beginning of this book begins with we have to have another example on screen or in the panels of how murderous the Joker is by having him, having killed yet again a room full of people, and as well as killing someone else for the punchline of a joke. And it was just something about that, especially in the wake of the whole fucking Joker war, in the wake of the 3 fucking Jokers, in the wake of all the dark fucking metal shit that is going on, that is, to me, is just like, DC, when will you learn a fucking lesson that killing is not a joke? And that there's certain ways that can be played for humor, and there are ways that it can't be. And you certainly cannot have it both ways with a character like the Joker, as you have set him up to be. And that is, reading that just took me out of the book so much that I really I put down the book and had to go back to it to really re-engage with it, because
I'm sorry,
could
you go back and I didn't, where is it, the joke, he murders somebody and it's funny?
I think that page that you're on right there, I think, is played for humor.
You do?
I'm not saying, yeah, I do.
Oh, I didn't get that at all. I thought that was brutal.
I think it's brutal, but I think it's also supposed to be a punchline, and I don't dig it.
Oh, I didn't take that at all.
I think I understand what you're saying. The way that it's paced out, it is a punchline. So it's set up, punchline, who's next? Like it is in story set up like that. It's brutal and it's not funny. But I could see.
I don't think it was intended to be funny.
I thought, is that when
it's not intended to be funny, but it is structured like a punchline, like a joke.
Is that like where she first meets him? Is that what we're looking for?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was just like, because they're like in high school or they're students of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
And they're on like a tour. Yeah, I didn't read it as funny either.
No, I took it as the stakes are very, very high.
Right,
and this girl who is being chosen to take this guy's place, he stuttered once and got shot to death.
Right.
And now it's up to her to sit down and do the thing that he was trying to do and not get murdered immediately. I didn't take that as a joke at all. It's just I thought it was setting up the stakes of this is what she's been thrust into. But I mean, to each our own.
I think we're having a disagreement on function and delivery, or the difference between function and delivery. The function of it was to raise the stakes, be cruel and scary. The structure of it and how it was delivered was set up punchline or set up delivery punchline.
And Len's point remains. I mean, if this is an example of it, it's certainly there are plenty.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And now I think the brother, they could easily go down just like he goes down a dark path and you see how it happens and it sucks every step of the way. I think it would be really interesting if they go a different way and he is not a foregone conclusion. You know what I mean? Even to us, where he like goes a little bit down and then that would be new. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I think this is a direct response or analogous to idiots citing the Joe Rogan experience as a medical source.
I agree.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
no, I absolutely agree. I just think it's like we've seen, and there's still more stories to be told about people falling victim to that kind of thing. But it would be interesting to see the interplay of like them falling victim and then coming back out, or not. You know, I mean, I think that would be a little different. But I absolutely agree with you that that's what they're going for.
I mean, it's definitely a look at what happens when a supposedly charming sociopath starts to gain followers.
Yeah, it's a greater conversation about what responsibility you have with your platform.
Yeah.
This is somebody who acquired a platform and has done pernicious things with it, and then in the real world, there's thousands of examples of 3 million people listen to me, but I could say whatever the fuck I want. It's
They're turning the frogs gay.
Yeah. I mean, just because people listen to you or you have a platform doesn't mean you don't have responsibility to be responsible with, or to be honest with it.
And I think also the people who have fallen victim or who are like in that mind space now are there's a lot of people saying like, well, how do you undo that, right? And this could be that story,
right?
You know?
Wouldn't it be great if this was a how to deal with your loved ones who have been
right?
Yeah.
I mean, because I've been
cult.
drawn to articles about that recently, about like, well, what happened? Where like the occasional person who something big happens and they're like, wow, I made a mistake, you know? Like, why is that the case for them and not others? You know, that kind of thing.
I'm sorry, Len. I didn't mean to cut you off. I know you didn't like the intro. Did you enjoy the rest of the story or no?
It's not bad. I mean, it's probably the best thing I've read with Punchline, but it just you know,
Rubbed you the wrong way.
That part just rubbed me the wrong way. That's all.
I get that. I mean,
you're jokered out hard.
Yeah,
I do.
Like,
I am.
Yeah.
I had the exact same response as Len, but my response was to the film Joker about the
I hate that
virginal
movie.
white guy who's sad that society doesn't pay him enough attention, so he gets a gun. I'm like, I don't need this in my pop culture right now, thanks.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the
Do
last
it.
book of the month. It's called
We're not meeting next week?
Scarenhood. Oh, I say month. I'm sorry, the week. I don't know how time works. Scarenhood, number 1 of 4 from IDW. Oh, the artist and writer is Nick Roche, with a cover by
Roche.
Declan Shalvey. To-do list: drop kids at preschool, grab coffee with other parents, go ghost hunting in the woods, fight demonic entity, collect kids, nap time. With their kids away on a field trip, a group of parents disturbs an ancient evil buried beneath the old church hall, unearthing a decades-old mystery about a missing child and inviting something hungry into their lives. Suddenly, their mornings go from play dates and peanut allergies to a battle for the souls of one broken family, and one child in particular. What scares you the most, fighting demons or letting your kids down? This was my favorite book of the week. I read it this morning. I woke up nice and early, and it was the last one on my docket, and I said, well, I don't know what the hell this is. I really like the name. I like a good pun. It sounds like something that the Crypt Keeper would call one of his episodes of the Tales from the Crypt. And, yeah, man, I'm into it. I think this is a lot of fun. And this is the book that I referenced earlier where I said I was reading Getting It Together, and then I read this. And I found the dialogue in this to be much more engaging, much more snappy. It had a little bit of humor to it, and I found myself smiling or smirking. And kind of just really enjoying the interplay between the characters, which I didn't get from Getting It Together, which is not the point of it. I understand it's a different feel of a book, but I would have liked just a little sprinkling of some of this dialogue in there to maybe make the characters slightly more charming and engaging to read about. So, I thought of that while reading this. I think this was really a lot of fun. The art is mostly great. The children are terrifying if you look at the bottom panel here. Holy hell. But yeah, the rest of it is really fun. And they even take the time to pump the brakes and just hang out with this single father. I mean, there's a mystery about what's up with mom, but he's kind of just a single father right now, raising his daughter and trying to get work done in between the naps and everything. And I really, as a father-to-be, I found it very interesting to check out. And then, of course, we've got the supernatural element, which was also really well done. A nice mystery is set up. There's some spooky moments. I'm engaged with all of the characters. I'm like immediately in the group of friends now, I feel like. So I think this is a really great start to... I was surprised. I just found out it was a 4-issue miniseries. But this is off to a great start. What did you think, Len?
Yeah, this was my favorite book this week as well. I really enjoyed it. I was engaged with it. I was engaged with the art. I was engaged with the dialogue because, like you said, I think everyone has their own, like their own vocabulary, their own. You can feel for everyone has like their own voice. They're definitely, I don't know, and it sounds like there's like this is maybe written by a British person. I think this is supposed to be happening overseas in London. I don't know.
Ireland. Yeah.
Okay, is that where it is? I knew it definitely was. I knew this wasn't America. I knew that. But and I wasn't sure, and I was just going to go with it. I didn't even want to look it up. I was like, okay, I know we're not in America. I'm with it. That's all I need. I'm good. But I was engaged with it. I liked it. The art was this rise that it's right in that middle between serious art but comedic, and thus it plays it both ways. It plays fair with the audience. It's funny. It's mysterious when it needs to be. It's not scary. It's just a little spooky, slightly thrillerish. There's like dropping hints, like you said. What's up with this single father? Where's mommy? Because he's obviously telling his daughter that mommy will be back from where? What's going on? There's a supernatural element, but you don't know what it is because it seems like it's a time thing. It's fun. And what I also like, this is the other thing that I like, especially about this story, is that the kids, at least to me, first you think that the setup is that the kids might be part of whatever this supernatural is. Oh. But they're not. They're really just kids. And they're just kids to the point that, yes, they do pick on each other. Yes, they don't just get along. But yet they are still forced to be in the room together because their parents say, well, yes, sure, I can babysit your kids. Right. The kids will be fine. They'll be in the room. Yo, she hit me. It's like, yeah. Come on, let's go. And you just see them give a side eye, see one another, because that's what kids do. But we're not engaged in their world because we're not kids. It's the adults that we have to focus on. So we just see this kind of like B plot. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'm digging it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I like everything.
The kids are an obstacle, not the point.
Yeah. Right.
They're just a plot obstacle that these people have to do whatever they need to do outside of normal childcare minutia. That's just is struggling. And JD brought it up too. The idea that the story kind of pumps the brakes for a second to show you him trying to just function for an evening after school is out. Yeah. Right. Eating her, bathing her, doing some work, throwing her in front of the TV back and forth. And that really did set the tone of like, oh, he's just dealing with a lot of shit. Like, I think a lot of times they will, like stories and books and movies and stuff, they'll romanticize single parenthood as this like Herculean effort, but not show you exactly just how terribly difficult it is. Mm-hmm. And this does, which I thought was really, really fun. So I saw this in this was super rando. Like I saw this in previews and thought it was a cool cover and was like, oh, Scarenthood, that's funny. Only 4 issues. Medium buy-in. Yeah, let's give it a shot. And I loved it. I loved this. I think that, and I'm not comparing the two, but this rides that fine line that something like Shaun of the Dead does. Shaun of the Dead is not a comedy. It's a zombie movie. It's a zombie movie. The characters and how they function with each other is comedic. They don't play the zombies as a joke. The characters function humorously in the situation, right? So like the zombies are always still zombies. They're not just like a joke or a punchline. That's what this does. These characters interacting with each other is like funny and uncomfortable and silly and kind of stupid. But the threat is very real and not concerned with the joke, which I thought was a really, really cool way of balancing the two without making one more important than the other. Like they don't make a joke of the horror aspect, which is cool. Will it do that for the whole series? I don't know. But that's a perfect balance that I like without making... Yeah, you're not making horror a joke. You're like the characters in the story. That's how they cope to pick on each other and to be funny and to do silly things. Because I mean, what the hell would you do if your lights were turning on and there was something crawling at you? You'd be like, "Fuck this," and you'd run off, and it would be funny from an outsider's perspective. Right.
Yeah, I agree with all you guys. I think this was my favorite book of the week, and very unexpectedly. It didn't look to me like it would be like the thing that I really enjoyed this week, or even would have enjoyed it as much as I did. I also found that I was like a little scared during the scene when he, with the statues and whatever, which from a comic is not to be expected. You know what I mean? Like, I don't often read comics. I mean, I don't tend to read horror comics, but I was legitimately like in that atmosphere of this, like these statues are moving, and when he's crawling under the thing and you see the Mary statue under there, it was well played on their part.
Oh yeah, and when he comes back out and it's like 8 hours later. That was genuinely jarring. That was really disconcerting. Like at that point, it's like when you wake up from a nap and the daylight's gone. Like, what day is it? What's happening?
What happened?
There was a lot of like very palpable. It threw you off. It was really good.
Yeah, and you get the they laid it in that he is a single father who's struggling with the time commitments of all of that, but is very devoted to his daughter, and that is a part of the like tension when he comes out underneath the stage is like, whoa, what happened there? Like, what happened with his daughter? What is he going to do now? How is he going to, and that added a lot to it. I kind of ultimately I liked the guy, the older guy who had lost his brother. Like, I liked him being involved in it now. Like, he's got a lot of conspircy theories that he adds to, but this one happens to be for real. It's from his own
that was a really great turn, a really good joke in the book too, where he's the one that incites them to go like check out this horror situation. They finally get inside and he's like, fuck it, I'm out. You guys are stupid. I don't want to be part of this. Like, he's the person in a horror movie that we all probably would be like, no, I'm not doing that. And they walk away, which I really dug.
There's a rumor of a witch's grave in my hometown, right? That's supposedly always warm whenever you touch it. And my feeling was, don't go there, because one, there's two possibilities. One, it's not a witch's grave. It's not real. It's nothing like that. And then there's no reason to go. The other one is, it's just a witch's grave, and just leave her alone. Like, you should not be at this grave.
All those stories about like rite of passages in small towns of like sleep in this haunted house. Like, no, I don't want to camp in a crusty house.
Yeah, if it's fake,
best case scenario.
If it's real, that's even worse.
Yeah, best case scenario, no sleep in a crusty house and probably get like bugs nipping at your feet the whole night. Worst case scenario,
does that mean you guys are not coming to my lunchtime demon summoning?
Yep.
Oh no, I'll be there.
Oh, okay.
No, I will.
I was hoping. Are you going to live stream it? I'll just watch.
Yeah.
I did notice also the school. I didn't notice until we just started reviewing it, but they go to a Little Pixies as a Montessori school. Which I went to a Montessori preschool and I loved it. And then having, as an adult, heard about their philosophies, they're awesome. Like, we played with these like wooden blocks that represented mathematical theorem, and not that you would know, but it like the relationships get in your mind. And when you go outside, they don't tell you to zip up your coat. They're like, if they're cold, they'll zip up their own coat. I like it. So I'll give a little shout out to that.
Yeah. And speaking about how, the old guy kind of like runs off right when they get in there, I liked it because, he is us, like, he is the audience. Like, yo, you're like, deuces, I'm out. This has been fun. Yeah. But it also fits with the character because you're introduced to him as like this big old jerk. But then you realize that he has skin in the game because of his brother.
Right.
And once they get inside, it makes sense that he's also the guy like, hey, I've seen this movie before. I've lived this movie before. Oh, yeah. I'm good. And I'm tipping out of here. You know what I mean? But just like that guy, when all is said and done, all right, I'm in for it. Let's do this, because I recognize that the bigger deal. You know what I mean? At heart, I am still a parent, and this is about our kids, and this is about figuring stuff out.
That's a good point. Yeah, and I forgot him as just because he looks older. I kind of was picturing him more as removed, but he is. I mean, he's with them. He's one of the parents, and I think he would have been drawn into it with the last page reveal either way.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that was a good reveal too. It was cool. Yeah, I like the way they're drawing the supernatural elements of what is happening.
It's a good book. This is a very good book. This is a fun comic book. I will let y'all know now. I will tell you now that if the intention is for us to review this book continually on Spoiler Alert, I will not be reading the rest of this book because I do intend to buy this in the trade. This is a fun book. I will buy this in the trade right there. I also like that the cover, as interesting as the cover is, doesn't give you any hint.
No.
The inside, to the look of the inside, the feel of the inside. It sells it, but it doesn't give it away.
Yeah,
it kind of makes you think it's the kids that are going to be the issue, honestly, because of that. Oh, also, this thing at the end, this final page reveal, it's got a little of the horror. It's got a little of the feel of the Peter Gross, like Lucifer, kind of a few of those. Yeah, like in the Dean Ormston. In the thing that we read. Yeah, which, as you know, I love.
Nice.
Yep, I gotta
great.
read the rest of that.
Ooh, yeah.
All right, guys. Anything else before we split?
No, except to answer Christopher Goodnight's question that he asked way back over an hour ago. Like, hey, is there going to be any more gutter talk? There will be more gutter talk, and when we are ready to make our grand announcement, you will be the first to know, Christopher St. Saucy Goodnight, along with everyone else, because we will announce it here
at the same time.
Show at the same time. But there will be more. Stay tuned.
Yeah. All right, guys. Please like and subscribe. We do Thunder Rounds throughout the week where we do 60-second videos where we review comic books. I'm probably going to start doing other things besides comic books just because I enjoy doing them. And I guess that's it.
Are you going to review potato chips?
Ooh, potato chip reviews.
I mean, if someone requests me to review some potato chips, I'll review them.
Done.
Join us here at 10:30 every Sunday morning where we live stream. We talk about the week's comics. We do Thunder Rounds on the YouTube CultPop Go channel. And you can tweet at me at JD's Hero Complex. You can tweet at Noel at Mr. Bartocci. Len, where can the people find you?
Any place you find the Black Tribbles, holla at a Tribble.
And Brian?
I'm at brianlieb.com.
And Samuel David says, great show, guys. Thank you, Samuel David.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. You did a great job listening, Samuel David, so appreciate it.
I thought so, too.
Thanks, guys, and we will talk at you later.